Millsy.
Okay, we're in the webinar, everybody, and we currently have 0 attendees, but we should begin as scheduled. Oh, it is recording.
We have 0 attendees.
No, they're joining. It takes a little
right
bit.
Oh, okay. They have to jump in now. Yeah.
Yep, we have 1 person currently.
Millsy, could you send me their bio again, because
Sure.
in a separate document, because I'll have to read it from my phone. I can't.
Oh, okay.
Okay, we have 7 attendees currently.
Good.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. All right, Milty, can we start? Oh, I'm gonna just wait a minute. All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Jariline Rosario. I work in the public art department with the city of Lancaster. I'm a public art community engagement manager for a program called PACE. Neighbors, it's going to be starting and hopefully in the fall. I'm going to run you guys through some Zoom technology before our meeting. Milty, can you get the next slide, please? Thank you. So we have a click raise hand feature. You can find it at the bottom of your screen. If you click the raise hand feature like this, we'll go over to your name and we'll unmute you if you'd like to ask a question. We have 90 seconds for questions because to keep things tight on time. And if you would like to ask a question in the chat, you can also ask a question in the chat. And I will read your questions and share them with the panelists. And if you are joining by phone or telephone, you can dial 9 to raise your hand. And if you're joining by Android or iPhone, tap more and then raise hand. And the host will be notified that you've raised your hand. If the host allows you to talk, you may be prompted to unmute yourself. While unmuted, your profile picture and name is displayed to the host and panelists. Only your name is displayed to other attendees. Tap more again, then lower hand to lower it if needed. So just showing you guys here the hand feature again. And if you're having any technical difficulties, just let me know and I can help you out. Thank you for coming.
And my name is Zaira Falou, and I am the Language Access Coordinator at the City of Lancaster. And we're just going to go over some meeting norms for the order of this meeting and for everyone's well participation. We want to hear from you. Please use the chat functions just as Yarlene had explained. Raise hands feature for dialogue during the survey. Questions portion of the presentation will be available. Please be respectful to our guests and others on this call and keep comments brief to give times to others to participate. It's a pleasure to be with you here today and look forward to having a great time in this conversation. Thank you. And by the way, with us, we're going to have our facilitators for today, who are John McGran and Lenwood Sloan, and the microphones are yours.
Lenwood, would you like to go first? Would you like me to go first?
John, I think you should go first.
Sounds good. Hi, everybody. My name is John McGran. I am on the, I serve on the Public Art Board for the City of Lancaster. I live in Lancaster with my family, own a business in downtown, and I've really enjoyed serving on this board. And it's exciting to see this project getting underway. And I'm going to, and I'm sorry, I know I asked this question before. Yarlene, am I giving my additional comments now?
No, you will give it later.
So I appreciate y'all being here, and I'm going to turn things over to Lenwood and ask him to introduce himself.
And good morning to you all. Thank you for joining us. My name is Lenwood Sloan. Many of you will know me as Lenny. I am the chair of the Public Arts Advisory Board for the Lancaster City. I am also on the board of directors of Lancaster History, a member of the African American Historical Society, and the co-facilitator of Lancaster Arts Talks, a civic engagement dialogue of practitioners and artists here in Lancaster.
Okay. So and I'll just sort of just a little bit of a disclaimer, everybody. I started my morning with a unexpected flat tire, which got my day off to a good start. So if I seem a little less prepared than I wanted to be, I'll claim that as an excuse. But so I'm going to run through today's agenda. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to describe things here. We're going to introduce R&R, and they're going to go through an introduction of themselves. Following their introduction, there's going to be time for question and answer with them, again, using the chat or the raise hand feature. We expect that to continue until about noon. And then at noon, we will transition to prompting you with some survey questions and asking you to respond to those questions as part of the remaining time that we have. We're going to go through 3 questions and just, again, trying to stay tight on time to cover as much material as possible and be respectful of everyone's schedule. So I want to take a couple minutes and just add an introduction to this event and add a couple notes, which is, the first thing is to make sure that people understand this is, the project we're talking about is a project that's being built by the Lancaster Parking Authority. It's not a City of Lancaster project. The Parking Authority selected the artists as part of the result work of a committee that they had. The city had some participation in that, but the city did not select the artists. And the artists are, the artist contract is with the Parking Authority. And it's important to note, I mean, I think there has been some confusion. The artists' compensation is not coming out of city taxpayer funds. I think that's important to make sure that people are clear about that. The other thing is to recognize, I know there have been some comments wishing for this work to have been, engaged with a local artist. And, I agree with that goal. But, in some instances, and this may be one of those instances, this is a permanent work of art integrated into the facade of a building, and it requires skills and experience and expertise that is not necessarily always, available. And so it's important, if we want this art to endure in conjunction with the life of the building, it's important to be mindful that we need talented artists, but also people who have valuable experience with projects like this. The other thing is, I know, again, to that same point, we always do aspire to have local artists featured in our community and in our public art. But, R&R Studios are international artists as well, and their work has been featured throughout the United States and throughout the world. And that's something that we should be proud of as well. This is also an opportunity to feature, some very, very dynamic art in our community. As far as the Public Art Board in the City of Lancaster goes, our role in this is to facilitate this process, to gain as much input, pass that along to the artists, and strive for that to inform them, their work, and help us arrive at a destination and a work of art that makes us proud. So we really appreciate you participating in this. There is another session on Monday. If you would like to encourage others to participate, that's Monday at 6 p.m. We appreciate as much input as possible. The other thing I'm going to say is just, I know that there have been some comments along the way about how we got here, about the process and other things. To the extent that you can focus today on sharing comments that can help us inform the artists and produce the best outcome, that would be the best approach. We understand that some people may have critiques and criticisms and comments about the process. We are happy to hear that. It's not necessarily germane to today's discussion. We're going to listen to anything you have to say. So if it's important for you to speak up on that behalf today, that's fine. If you would like to pass that along in other ways, I'm going to put my email address in the chat, and you can communicate with me directly via email, and I will share any comments along those lines with the rest of the board and with City Hall. But I'm just asking people to be mindful of that, to be respectful of the process, to be gracious and welcoming to the artists who are visiting Lancaster today from Miami, and just communicate, participate in the best spirit that you can, so that we can send them back with as much valuable thought as possible, so that they can produce a work that we love and are proud to see in our city. So that's the end of my comments. Lenwood, I'll let you take it from here.
Yes, thank you, John, so much. As I said, for those of you who have just entered, I am the chair of the Public Arts Advisory Board for the City of Lancaster's program. Public Arts Advisory Board is the voice and the public trust of the people of Lancaster, and the staff are the actualizers and the interagency partners bringing art to the landscape. Our artists today bring a global perspective and a global set of best practices to Lancaster, informing their knowledge and their experience with the input of our local community. R&R Studios, the collaborative office of Roberto Berrar and Rosario Marquardt, is a multidisciplinary practice, weaving together visual artists, architects, design, and cities. Celebrated, as one critic put it, as architects of hope, their works propose encounters of stories and spaces which alternate between the personal and the public, the quantum and the extraordinary, the poetic and the political. R&R Studios works erase boundaries between art and life and suggest imagery solutions for a better world. Rosario and Roberto are known for creating social sculptures of public pleasure. All together now in downtown Denver, the biggest M in the world, in Miami, the living room, their iconic Miami home turned it inside out, public squares in Mexico, Copenhagen, and most recently, Besame Mucho, their super billboard at Coachella Music and Arts Festival 2016. All suggest a world of possibilities where the fantastic becomes part of everyday life. Their award-winning practice has been published in over 250 publications worldwide and exhibited in solo and group shows in museums, institutions, and galleries in America and Europe. They have received American Institute for the Art Awards, and Americans for the Arts selected their projects among the best public art of 2007 and 2013. Rosario and Roberto have known each other since childhood, received diplomas in architecture from the Universidad Nacional de Rosario de Argentina, and later studied in the legendary Institute of Architects and Urban Studies in New York City. Roberto has been a visiting artist at Gettysburg Research Center in Los Angeles and a visiting professor at Harvard University and Cornell University. And together with Rosario, visiting artist at the American Academy in Rome. In 2007, they published the Peace Project in 2011 and 2013, the Living Room and Museum Works, the first 3 volumes of R&R's incomplete works. Roberto Berrar and Rosario Marquardt currently teach at the University of Miami School of Architecture. So we are about to be transported into dialogues from the global perspective to the corner block. Let us welcome our artists to this exchange.
Thank you, Lenny. Thanks a lot, and thanks everyone for your kind words. I'm going to be sharing our screen. There we go. Let me see if this works. Can you guys see our screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay, there we go. Perfect. Again,
Okay.
you want to start?
Good morning, everybody, and thank you so much for your time and attention. We are super happy to be again in Lancaster, and my English is not so perfect, so I let Roberto.
So first of
Talk.
all, our accent comes from Argentina, where we were born some time ago. And those that you see in the screen, believe it or not, is us some time ago. So it's true. That's Roberto with hair and Rosario. We are going to share with you, we're going to share 7 works, seven public art works through which we are going to try to introduce our work to you all. We thank you indeed for being here today. I know it's difficult. Saturday morning, you probably have lots of things to do, better things to do than being
Saturday morning.
with us here today, but we'll try to make it worthwhile. We start with a project that is not a public art project, but that somehow, you know, it's a work that we all may have seen, no matter where we were born, back in Argentina, in New York, Philadelphia, Lancaster, of course, or Mexico, a project that we could have seen in our primary school, a map of the world that is no longer, in this case, a world political map, but a world poetical map, that shows the world as it is, but from a different point of view. This work of art, in a way, which is not a public art piece, it kind of describes our approach in our public art projects. We try to see reality from a slightly different point of view, but we always start with the real as the point of departure. It's not about us, it's about the place and each one of you somehow. We start with 3 landmarks, 3 what we call instant landmarks. Perhaps one of the capacities that has been mentioned, one capacity that our work is very good at performing as instant landmarks, what we call instant landmarks. Here we have 3 of them. Starting on the left of your screen, the living room in Miami, 42 feet tall project of a home turned inside out, a fragment of a home. In the middle, all together now in downtown Denver, and on the right, again, the biggest M in the world. The 3 projects indeed are 42 feet tall, approximately, but they're built in different ways. Some of them, like the living room or the M, are built in concrete block as pieces of architecture. They are ensembled in place. Altogether now, on the other hand, is built elsewhere, in fact, in the state of New York, and transported piece by piece to Colorado. As it has already been mentioned, Rosario and I started studying architecture. We study architecture for too many years, actually. We finished with a lot of loans to pay. And we thought that we wanted to be architects, but we found that architecture was a difficult profession to express oneself, and as it might be the case with some of you who are artists, we decided that perhaps what we wanted to do was to become artists, actually. So we tried to find a place between art and architecture to perform, in a way, to try to use the technical skills that we have learned in school as we became architects, actually, licensed architects. But in fact, not develop a kind of corporate office, trying to develop a big office doing big buildings, but in fact, trying to perhaps add elements of wonder to everyday life.
Yes. So these 3 projects that we will show you first is just to show you in the way that we work. We are not, for example, light artists, or that we work with glass or we work with ceramic. It all depends the reality of the place, the geography of the place, the event itself. If you are doing, for example, this DM in Miami, it was the 100 years celebration, the first 100 years celebration of Miami. So it's it was one type of theme. The living room, we really wanted to open. There was a very ugly enclosed building and we wanted to open it. So it depends what is the event, what is the culture of the place, the geography, the weather, etc., is what we choose to work with.
But something that is important in all of our works, they start in the studio as a model, as you can see in the left. They start in our studio with a drawing, you know, drawings that later on, perhaps sometimes when we are lucky, are presented in galleries or in museums. They start with a drawing, they start with a model in the studio, but then very quickly they become part of the public realm. And this transition from the studio to the public realm is perhaps what we are best known for. And it's the most difficult part of our work, translating a model that might be 24 inches high, as it is the case here, to a public sculpture that in fact is 42 feet tall. There are issues of scale that we are concerned with, and most importantly, technical issues of how to build the project. We're not going to bother you with all the working drawings, et cetera, that an approval process that we have to go through. But enough to say that we go from drawings that are 24 by 36 inches, let's say, or models that are 24 inches high, to the reality of, you know, a building-like sculpture in a way, because of the way that it's built with concrete block and stucco, electricity, et cetera, engineers, we involved engineers, we involved contractors, and eventually after a long process of approvals, you know, projects are built. But the most important thing is that the drawing and the model corresponds as faithfully as possible to the reality of the project built. And this is something that we're very, very proud of. If you look at the model on the left, the drawing in the center, and the reality of the project on the right, they're very, very much the same.
Go to the next one.
The All Together Now is another example. In the left, you have a street corner in downtown Denver. In this case, it was a private developer, actually, the sponsor of the project.
Working with the Urban Renewal Association.
Working with the Urban Renewal Association, actually, right in front of the Performing Arts Center. And what we did in this case is slightly different, because in the first instance, DM, we created what we call an instant landmark. But here, we did something that we are most interested in, which is combining the landmark itself with a place of encounters. So we created a landmark, the All Together Now part of the project, the building blocks in a way that now are beginning to express this desire in the part of the downtown Denver community to imagine a new future for downtown All Together Now. And the second part of the project is the yellow wall together with a very long bench that you see in the picture on the right, which in fact proposes a place where to sit and perhaps meet each other in downtown Denver. So we have, on the one hand, an instant landmark and simultaneously a place of encounters. So at this point, what the project attempt to become is a kind of a public art intervention that is interpreted by a social sculpture. In other words, a project that attempts to bring us together. That's why we call it social sculptures. These are not projects just to be seen, to be looked at, but to somehow engage each and every one of us at a kind of emotional level. Somehow they are able to become somehow personal, because you see, no matter where you come from, you see DM that we may have played with when we were kids. Perhaps in DM, that is we had a very little budget, but we decided to do a very big project. We were lucky because the Hollywood sign doesn't have an M. So this became the biggest M in the world. So Miami is a very young city, and it's a little bit like a kid, like a toddler in a way, that wants to be big but doesn't know how sometimes. So we had a very little budget. So one letter, the M, the first letter of the word Miami, kind of expresses the whole city. But if you're coming from Maryland, perhaps you can see your state of Maryland. But if you're coming from Medellin, Colombia, you may see Medellin. And if you come from Mexico, you may see Mexico. But all of us may remember our moms, and call her up at the same time.
When we see them.
So we see it as a kind of model for multiple meanings. We never try to tell you what the project means, but in fact, we try to offer a kind of platform for each and every one of us to interpret the project in different ways. On the left, you have a warehouse, a kind of bunker-like a warehouse, very much enclosed. On the left, and Rosario and I, met with the developer in the design district of Miami, and he told us, Rosario, Roberto, I want you to do whatever you want. You did here, you have this building, I want you to do something extraordinary. We had done smaller projects for him, and he had seen the M. So he told you, the only thing that I want is to make sure that this becomes a landmark in Miami, and that the project expresses somehow what we in Miami are capable of. We said, fantastic, excellent. The only problem that I have is that I have very little money. Excellent. We'll do
always.
like always. So excellent. We'll do the best that we can. So what we decided to do was to take out somehow the corner. Here you see the sketch of what the project was to become. We decided to take out the corner to somehow make part of the building public, and indeed a kind of little square within the neighborhood. So what we tried to do was to kind of turn the building inside out, a building that was looking pretty much towards itself, a kind of began to share part of its square footage, about 500 square feet to be precise, with the street corner where it's located. And as it did so, it became kind of the living room of the neighborhood, and the place where extended families began to take pictures of themselves to send back home to in Haiti or in Colombia, Cuba, or wherever one may be coming, or New York City, wherever one may be coming from. The project is perhaps our best known project, and is one that best illustrates our intention to bring something that is that we all recognize as a living room, but when we look carefully, we have never seen before. So it's something that we know, but we don't. In a way, it's a kind of built dream, a kind of daydream, if you wish, that we built, a kind of mirage of sorts that becomes part of the urban landscape.
But also the intention is always to try to make the urban realm a little bit more open, more friendly, and to try to create public spaces for the people to meet, what we call social sculptures, to take every opportunity to make the city more, there are no many public spaces in the city, so we try to get each opportunity to carve a little space for people to meet.
So sometimes we attempt to highlight the public space. Sometimes our role in the project is to highlight the public space, to bring people to offer, to underline, if you wish, the fact that this is a public space that belongs to all of us. In some other cases, we kind of, quote unquote, steal, if you wish, some a space from a private developer to make it public, and a place of encounters for us all. The developer in turn gets a landmark in a way, and calls attention upon his property. After doing the living room, we became very much it had a great degree of success here, there, more or less everywhere. And the Museum of Art in Fort Lauderdale asked us to somehow attempt to correct, again, a bunker-like building. Imagine that you're in Florida, right? I mean, Fort Lauderdale is close to Miami, north of Miami. It's a very warm place all the year round. And yet, during the 50s and 60s, we got these, bunker-like buildings that are totally enclosed and preclude any kind of interaction with the community. So we got this building, and the museum director asked us, how can we make these more of, how can we change the museum for the better? How can we make it attempt to offer the community a place of encounter? So what we did was to think. If you look carefully at this picture, and you have the picture, you have the place as it was before, below. What we did was to add a roof, and somehow add, again, a kind of wallpaper-like paint. Really, we did not turn anything down. We kept everything pretty much as it was. The stair in diagonally position, the terrace, the walls as they are. We just added a number of columns to support the roof, painted this area of the building in a particular way, and added a little bit of landscape.
So we created a kind of super front porch, a place for people to gather, to feel like the museum was welcoming them. Before, you couldn't even find the door to enter to the museum. Now you have this front porch where you can gather, meet your friends, and then go into the museum. But the museum is kind of calling you, come out, it's for you, it's open.
Please come over, this is your museum. That's the intention of the project. It's really, in fact, our ideas, to tell you the truth, are very, very simple. There are many artists that, and we respect them very much, because art, there isn't one way of expressing oneself. But we as public artists, for us, it's very important to be able to, for our project, to be able to communicate with the public. For us, it's very important that our projects establish a dialogue with the public in a way. The projects at the end, it's very different, a kind of doing a painting, which we do as well, or a drawing, or a little sculpture that somebody may buy, purchase, and place it somewhere within her or his living room. That's a kind of personal choice, in a way, of somebody that purchases a work of art and places it in his or her place. Public art is somehow different because it belongs to all of us. So we try to offer a platform, if you wish, based on the geography of the place. For example, in the case of South Florida, we need, especially those of us who are bald, who have no longer any hair, we need some shade, always. So we offer shade, and we offer shade remembering a feature, an architectural feature that is common to the South. African-American families meet in porches,
the front porch.
In the front porch. The front porch, for example, in the South, has a very important role in community and life. Very much like, I may add, as we have seen in Lancaster, where whenever there is a home that has a porch, somehow it expresses, the people that live in that very home. So here what we did was to create a kind of super porch that in a way contains all porches. And porches.
Roberto Rosario, if I may, there's a question in the chat posed by Lenwood Sloan. How will people encounter Ewell, soul of the man, spirit for his city, from the artwork?
I didn't understand.
Yeah, can you repeat it, please?
Yes, absolutely. How will people encounter Ewell, soul of the man, spirit for his city, from the artwork?
Yeah, well, that's one of the characteristics of I think I think one thing that you can be sure is that, as you may see in these projects, is that as our work is full of color, not one color, but many colors. I think we met with his, I think it's his daughter, I think it was his daughter, and we learn about his spirit. We cannot, there is going to be a sculpture of him, a figurative sculpture of him, which, we offer actually to, if they need any architectural services, we offer to perform for free. Where we can help them do a pedestal to support the sculpture, the figurative sculpture that is to present him in very figurative terms, which I think is the best way to represent him, with something that really shows the man as he was, in a way, without further interpretation. But what we wanted to do was to catch, or what we want to do is to catch his spirit in a way. First of all, his spirit of freedom, in a way, in all regards,
and perseverance.
Yeah, perseverance and freedom. And that's the way that we can collaborate in this endeavor of remembering him forever. No?
But also, what our inspiration to, one of the things that is inspiring us to do this project is the idea that there are 2 or 3 things that coincide in this space. That is the public plaza, that is the library, and the Barney's Ewell homage. So there are 3 things that coincide in one moment in the city that we think that is so incredible.
Yeah.
And what we are trying to do is to make that place as much inclusive as possible, and to celebrate also the library, the public library that is below.
Yeah.
So there are so many ingredients, but the idea that this is the Barney's Ewell Plaza, what we try to do is to call everybody, come to the plaza. This is an inclusive place. This
is a place for each one of you, in a
exactly.
way, no?
We don't want to go to one side or another one. It's just to invite everybody to celebrate this achievement in the city.
Here you see another project. Here you see, but we can expand more on that later. Here you see another project. On the left, these are 2 drawings, 2 renderings actually, of a museum as it was.
No,
As
it's not
a museum. It's, I'm sorry, it's a hotel actually on the left, the rendering of a hotel in Sunny Isle, Florida. And on the right, the same hotel, again, a rendering. And as you can see, the bottom part, in fact, has a garage. And what we did, the city was very concerned. This is in a very tourist area of, North Miami Beach. It's called Sunny Isle, but it's North Miami Beach, right in front of the ocean. So the city was very much concerned. There was concern that the project looked like an office building, and they didn't want to have an office building like in that place. So they invited us to do a project. And here you see the new facade that we created for the parking garage. Is the part where the flowers are located. And here you see the project realized. Again, you have a rendering of this is, again, as I mentioned, it's a hotel, but the part that our project is in fact covering is indeed a 3 or 4 story high garage. On the left, you have the project being installed. You can see the size of each of the flowers. It's about 5 feet in diameter, approximately. You can also see how the flowers turn around the corner. It's a very precious detail that, again, we're very proud of. And then somebody may ask, why flowers? Why white in this case? Well, because we wanted to convey kind of a marine quality to the project, and together with the sky and the sea in front, we found that this was the kind of the colors of Miami Beach in a way. Lenny, you have a question, I see. Maybe?
Is there a question?
Yes, I'm not able to enter it though. So I'll just ask it. I wanted to ask, congratulations to you both on the honor and designation from Americans for the Arts. They are the political edge of our aesthetic thinking, where art and civic dialogue come together. Their manifesto is animating democracy. So I wanted to ask you, how will this piece animate the conversations of democracy that our city of Lancaster is so involved in right now?
Well, that's you touch upon one of the things why we were so happy why we are so happy to be involved with this project, to tell the truth. We didn't know Lancaster before we came over, to be absolutely sincere. We have been in Philadelphia, we had been in Pennsylvania, of course, but not in Lancaster. But to come here was a sort of revelation in many, many respects, because we have heard of the Amish community, and we were very much interested in learning more about it, but we didn't know about the history of the very unique contemporary history, if you wish, of Lancaster. The way that Lancaster has been a welcoming city from people from everywhere, and we as immigrants ourselves, I may ask, we also had to leave our place. In the case of Rosario, maybe I don't know if you want to say it, but
I don't know.
no, about your family. No?
Yes, now we have some problems that we have to leave the country. There was a dictatorship in Argentina, so
so we know what it's like to live under
pressure,
let's say, and to we know it because Rosario's brother was in jail 5 years without a trial
when he was 20 years old. So
her sister was killed by a military dictatorship. I'm Jewish, and my family had to leave Europe in the 40s and went to Argentina. So we know what it's like. We know what it's like to have to leave a place and to find friends that you don't know somewhere else. And when we came here, we realized that Lancaster was such a place.
We were so
that
surprised.
Could have welcomed us in a way, and is welcoming many at this very point, with a percentage of people coming from everywhere. Most recently from Puerto Rico, but from Africa. We met a guy, a chef, Mustafa. I can't remember his last name, from Somalia, and
he invited us to have dinner with him, with his regional food.
So it was incredible too. It was really, really interesting for us to see that in this rich historical American city, small city, in fact, there were restaurants and people from all over the world. So it's a very unique, I don't know if you guys realize it, but this is a small,
you don't find it
small
everywhere,
cosmopolitan city in a way. It's the smallest cosmopolitan city in the world, perhaps. That's the way that I would call it, because usually you have people from all over the world in big cities, Chicago, Miami, or New York City,
or Philadelphia.
But small towns, smaller cities tend to be more homogeneous, and that is not the case here. And
so
couple that with the architecture and the historical beauty of the architecture of the place was a discovery that we thank you for. No? And
thank you.
Anyway, so what you see here is supernova. We were super lucky. Again, the word super comes about several times in our project, the super front porch or
Latin,
supernova.
That is Latin culture.
Yeah, that might be part of our Latin background, that we like things that are big and colorful, etc., and super somehow, but also part of the American experience. In the American experience, we have one of the biggest sculptures in the world, the Statue of Liberty, that celebrated the arrival of many to this very country. In this country, we have the Grand Canyon, which is perhaps one of the biggest canyons in the world, or the Mississippi, which is one of the longest rivers. So supernova is one but also 13 stars that bring together 12 different colors in each of its faces. And we did it for a film, for the music festival, Coachella in California, where we also did in a previous engagement, Bésame Mucho. Bésame Mucho was very popular. You know, I guess people needed to kiss each other, and Bésame Mucho promoted that idea of kissing each other. Supernova, you know, promotes hope, you know, as all stars tend to do. You know? But we want to finish with this very project. And it's a very unique project that we did last year, just before COVID started. And the project is, it's a project that we did for Parkland, for the city of Parkland. And as you may remember, in the city of Parkland, you know, it's one of the sides of the continuous tragedy that we have to go through every so often, unfortunately. You know, where a number of kids in this case,
there was a shooting,
there was a
high
shooting, a
school.
massacre, etc., where a number of kids were killed. So for the second anniversary, working with the city of Parkland and Coral Springs, where the high school is located,
And the Bloomberg Foundation.
and the Bloomberg Foundation, who selected us to do this project, we did this project, which is called Peace and Love.
That
Peace
is
and Love.
like a memorial.
It's a kind of commemorative memorial of the second anniversary. It's not a permanent project, it's a temporary project. It's very much like Bésame Mucho at Coachella, kind of super billboard in a way. But in this case, the words are made out of flowers, made out of silk flowers, wild silk flowers. And this is the last project, don't worry, you can ask questions now. Silk flowers, well, because those are the flowers that my mother can buy in a dollar store, and the flowers that perhaps my grandmother would have in her living room. And those same flowers that belong to the experience of many here in America are flowers of friendship, are flowers that invite, despite the horror of the event, to think of a better future for all. So these are the flowers.
And we work with the students of the school, putting the flowers together. The project has almost 100,000 flowers, so it was a long
It's a long process. But you know,
process.
Flowers are a symbol of friendship in every culture. Your mothers, as well as mine, no matter where we come from, taught us whenever you have to go and visit your mother-in-law, don't forget, take flowers, and do the same with your girlfriend, boyfriend, or whatever. So, so we follow their advice, and we like to work with flowers, to tell you the truth. But here we have the project. The project is about 130 feet long. There is a history of super billboards in America, the Hollywood sign. But here we try not to sell anything, just to promote the idea of peace and love as a response to the horror, in a way. And we want to finish with this video of the project. And thank you once again for the incredible opportunity of working with you all here in Lancaster.
Thank you, Roberto and Rosario. I see that Lenny has his hand up.
No, I'm going to take my hand down.
Okay.
So that the others can speak and engage with our artists.
Thank you, Lenny.
So we should leave the screen, isn't it? Yeah.
Yarlene, John McGran has his hand up.
Roberto, can you unshare your screen, please?
Yeah.
Yes.
How do I do that?
I think it's here.
Stop share.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. Hi. Can you? Yeah. So I don't have a question. I just wanted to sort of introduce the Q&A session, and maybe, you know, this is as much. It's great to hear your comments, Roberto and Rosario, about Lancaster and you know, however you said it, the smallest cosmopolitan city. I think the people that live in Lancaster and are proud of downtown Lancaster, that's one of the things that makes us most proud. And I think we feel. I think some of the things that we've heard along the way is from people who feel strongly that we need to cling to that and make sure that we do everything. So when you hear comments, you just bear that in mind, that people know, we know that about ourselves a little bit, and we want to make sure that we get the very best result that we can at the end of this project. So.
Perfect.
And I guess I should say, I think this is, an opportunity for the other participants. If you have questions or comments or feedback specifically to R&R, this is the best opportunity to share that.
That we have, oh, yep. Facts to know, Lancaster is one of the best inland cities in the US. Susquehanna River is the oldest river system in the world, older than the Nile, and we have the largest conservation district in the US. That's pretty cool.
Great.
That was shared by Maura Jean. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, we were very impressed. I mean, we drove around outside of Lancaster, and I don't know how to call it, but I would call it Amish country, let's say. And we were so impressed. It's not exactly what you're referring to, I know, but we should know more about what you are referring to, actually. We'd like to learn more about that. But we drove around the area. And I may add, I have had the luck of traveling around and across the US. I traveled 16,000 miles with 16 students, Cornell students, from Ithaca, New York, all the way to Seattle, down to San Diego, Miami, back to New York City. So we have had the opportunity to get to know this country very, very well on the road, Jack Kerouac-like. But to drive through the countryside here is super, super special. Again, this word super, I'm sorry. And it's super special because there is a clarity in the landscape. It's like the fields come all the way to the road, and they're super well cut, all the way to the road. I have never seen anything like that anywhere in the world. That degree of precision and care for the landscape was really, really astonishing, and kind of speaks about, we're interested in, when we go to a place, we like to really walk around, in this case, most importantly, walk around the city, because you get to see things that will inspire you in ways that I cannot tell you until we find them in
Exactly.
a way. But the landscape was the landscape around the city was an important part. The precision of the landscape, the cleanness of the landscape,
but also
in a
there
way.
is something, at least that it called
And the
my
slow,
attention.
and the call for a slower world, in this time of screens and computers, I personally appreciate a lot, in a way.
Yes, but also something that it surprised me is the colors of the city.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful because you have a little facade to the street, but that facade is treated in a way that it puts so much love to the life of the street. And each house, no matter how simple it is, they have their flowers all the time. It's such a desire to make the public realm, that is what we are interested, more friendly, more amicable. So it was so inspired. And each facade, it has the frame of the window in one color, the brick is painted, the pots are in different colors with the flowers. It's such a pleasure to walk through the streets and see that expression of the people to the public realm.
There's something very beautiful. I may add one more thing. I'm sorry one thing that we liked a lot, was, for example, that we enjoy a lot when we look at the urban landscape in particular, is, the row, I don't know how you call it, if townhouses or row houses, whether they are, some of them are really high end, some of them are lower end, but all of them kind of share the urban landscape of the street. So you have this facade that repeats itself in a way, and shares an approach to the public realm. That is really, really beautiful. It's not like, okay, I'm here to stand up and my house is the biggest one of them all. No, it's like every house, but yet every single house that belongs to that street has something particular to say. So as Rosario was saying, one has a pot of one kind of flowers, or maybe are white. The other one has flowers that maybe are red. Maybe the curtains inside are of a different color. Yesterday night, we were again walking around
until
historical.
12:30 at night. We couldn't stop walking walking.
We couldn't stop walking, and we saw things that were incredible. We saw this house that I took a picture of. Next time that we see each other, I'll show it to you. A picture of a simple home, of the window, you know, with a candle. You know, first of all, the fact that you have the door, the shutters inside, you know, till half of the window, so we couldn't
For
look
privacy,
inside,
yes.
but yet we were able to see the light inside of the home, which was a way of engaging each other, we and the people inside the home, without seeing each other.
But also,
Then you had the beautiful curtains with
Roberto
flames.
and Rosario, I'm sorry for the sake of time. We have
Oh.
another question and I want to make sure we get to
okay,
it.
sure.
Yeah.
It's from Kim, and Kim, I have unmuted you.
Okay, thank you. So just sort of picking up on some of what you've been saying and also the other comment from the other participant regarding the landscape of the city. One thing that I think Lancaster is known for, and I think residents appreciate, is all the trees and also the green infrastructure. There's several buildings that have green roofs, for example, and so that, I don't know, that might be a nice thing to sort of bring in, if possible, to this project, whether it's to a facade or it's to the park itself. And I don't know how much you all are involved with the rest of the space.
David, thank you, Kim. Thank you for your question. It's a really important one. I mean, we have a little garden at home. You know, that would be, I can send you pictures of it, that I personally take care of it. And we saw it grow, you know, so I understand the value of, most importantly now in the world that we live in. So we understand fully, but I want to make sure that you understand, we're only doing one facade. We have a little budget, and you know, there is a big plaza below, and there is a big building behind us. You know, what we want to do is to be the best neighbors that we can. You know, what we want to do is to help create a place of encounters in that
plaza,
very
yes.
plaza. The project will be as sustainable as we can make it. Trust me. We will try to use, you know, recyclable materials probably. But we cannot answer every question at the same time, and I need to be sincere with you.
Yes,
the project is 20 million. It's a $20 million project, $24 million project, but we have only just this little tiny bit, 1% of the project, let's say, you know, for us to work with. So please, I beg you, perhaps you are an artist as well. Sometimes we artists are asked to solve the problems of the world. And we try to help, and we're going to help, trust me, and we're going to try our best, but we cannot solve every single one of every problem.
But we saw the plans of the plaza. We don't participate. We are not participating in the design of the plaza itself. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, it has a lot of green areas.
Yeah.
And it's true. When you come to Lancaster, you see the green, you feel it. It's a green city, so beautiful.
My friends, I have to apologize. A family issue requires that I step away from this conversation now. But I wanted to give my farewell with saying that the Public Art Advisory Board also wants to be the best neighbors that we can. And so we are bringing together a triangle of conversations, the conversation with the commissioning artists, the conversation with the city and its partners, and the conversation with the community. And your enthusiasm is so infectious that we can't wait to be sitting around the table and actually having coffee and a larger conversation. So I leave you to my good friend and colleague, John, and remind you all what he said, that this is not the end of a conversation, but the beginning of a conversation. Mucho gusto en conocerlo. Mucho gusto en conocerlo.
Gracias,
Thank you, Lenny.
Lenny.
Thank you, Lenny. Thank you. Thank you for everything. And Kim as well.
And I just want to go back to it. We have a question from Barry Kornhauser. In the spirit of this being a welcoming city, would you welcome further public art in this plaza created by local artists?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I know that there are some public artists working in the plaza itself that we are not much involved, but our project was the facade, the garage facade, plus there is a passageway between the plaza and the street that is in the back.
The alleyway.
The alleyway, yes. And so we were thinking.
We decided that it was best, for a local artist to engage on that project.
That they didn't need us to do that project, even though at the very beginning, when we were not exactly aware of the scope of the project, we did a proposal, but suddenly we say, in reality, what we are needed is to work in the big facade because it has a lot of technical issues, coordination with the architect, the structural issues, is an enormous facade. So one part of the project that we were supposed to do now, I don't know if it's already done, but it will be done by the local artists. We can do it. We would love to do it, but it's not needed for us to do it.
And then, of course, the square, I mean, what is going to be important, I think, in time, I'm sure the public art department will work on it in the future, but to do a public square is really important, not only because of what is done that might be permanent, like our facade, but also the square itself and the landscape within the square will offer the opportunity for temporary projects. And that's what we mentioned. We think that it is important for local artists to have the opportunity to apply for an ongoing program of temporary public art projects in the square itself. This, to me, I mean, this is a kind of suggestion that we have made. In our experience, sometimes we create the public space, we kind of set it up as a kind of platform for other public artists to intervene over time. So, for example, you may have a tree, for example, an important tree, a distinct tree within the square, that may have the name of a person, let's say, because it was donated by someone, and that tree may become the site of periodic interventions by different artists that may last 2 months, let's say. And that is an important, or performances, for example. There might be it may become the public space becomes a site for performances, let's say.
Roberto and Rosario, I have to pause you here, and I'm going to allow Maura Jean to talk because we are tight on time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maura Jean, would you like to ask your question? Did I pronounce your name correctly?
Yes, you did. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
I would like to thank R&R Design for this excellent presentation. I really appreciate your philosophy behind public space and public art. I just wanted you to know a few facts. I didn't really have a question, and we are the oldest inland city in the United States. We live near the Susquehanna. We are in the Susquehanna River Valley, which is the oldest river system in the world, older than the Nile River. And we are kind of a self-rejuvenated town. I've been here over 30 years, closer to 40. And what you see was developed by independent business owners and a lot of passionate residents. So you are going to run into a lot of passion about the architecture, especially because we're the oldest historic conservation district in the United States. And we have demolished a lot of buildings and we mourn their loss. But your addition will be received with a lot of people paying attention because they care so much. And
of course, and we love to have an informed constituency. So for us, it's a great.
You live in the oldest, and we live in the youngest. We live in Miami Beach ourselves, in the Art Deco district. So you live in the oldest and most beautiful, I suppose.
And believe it or not, the Underground Railroad term came from the crossing of the Susquehanna River.
Right, we learned that already. Yeah. Thank you for reminding us all of that. Absolutely.
And we have also a comment from Kim. Oh, Kim, sorry, I think I muted you.
Oh, thank you. Just quickly, if you would like, and if you have time for more background on what Maura Jean said about some things that were destroyed, some buildings destroyed in the city back in the, I think, 60s. David Schuyler was a professor at F&M. He just passed away last year. He did extensive research and wrote a book all about that. And it's really interesting. And it could give you a sense of not only what happened in that block where everything was raised and they built the more clunky buildings, but also in some Southeast Lancaster neighborhoods where also buildings were raised and houses. And it just gives you also an additional sense of the city. His book is called A City Transformed, and I'd be happy to pass on. And maybe you're already familiar with it.
No, we're not. So I thank you for the suggestion. We have I'm a bibliophile. You know, we have like 10,000 books in our library. So every book,
Yes,
every good
don't
book
give him more
welcome.
titles, please, because
Only one.
And I also have the book after this session. I can let you both borrow it. And I wanted to transition into the Q&A.
All right.
Take your time.
All right. Yep. So thanks, Yarlene.
Yep.
Okay. So so just to remind everybody, so we have a few questions here that we're going to prompt the attendees with. You can, in response to these, you can raise your hand and have 90 seconds to respond. You can enter a response in the chat, whatever feels best to you. So the first is to ask you to describe the city of Lancaster in the future.
Is that for us? No.
No. Well, I may say something now that there is silence.
Yeah.
That we were reviewing the question and answers, and we were so amazed about the response of the questions. There were like 150 questions, answers to the questions, and they were so inspiring. We finished. We didn't finish yet because we had them yesterday. But thank you if some of you participate. Thank you so much, because we learn about the Underground Railroad that we didn't know, all of that, looking at the answers that were given to us. So thank you very much, and we keep on reading.
Yeah, the answers really give us a kind of insight in what is important for you and what we may need to pay more attention to.
Exactly.
So we thank you indeed for your time and attention in responding to our
But
our
also
questions.
it shows a love for the city, because what did you tell me? Yes, it shows a love for the city because people spend time and carefully answer all the questions, like trying to help us understand what is the city about. But what we must learn is how the citizens of Lancaster love their place and want to take care of it. So thank you so much.
We enjoy the fact that red became the best, not the best, but the color that is most liked by everyone in town,
Yes.
you know. And of
you
course, we learn
see
about
it.
the red rose, etc. And you see it in the brick and everywhere, actually. So it is our favorite color. So
we are in the same boat.
Yes.
Okay, so to the attendees, we set aside 5 minutes per question. So we have about 3 minutes left. If you, Kim, I do see Kim, your hand is still raised. So if you, oh, thanks. Okay, that was gonna be my request, is either. So if there aren't, if people have, you know, if people don't have a response to this, I'll give it just another half a minute, and then we can move on to the second question.
Kim, do you have a question?
Well, since no one else is responding, I'll just say that I would like Lancaster to be a city where everyone feels welcome and equally welcome and important as a participant and a member of our city.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. All right. Do we have other responses, or if I'm going to give it another 15 seconds, and then we'll move on to the Yarlene, are you able to unmute or to invite Moira?
Am I unmuted, John?
Yeah.
I'll just make a quick comment. I like a colorless landscape, one that reflects the greenery and the people who are mingling among the plaza. And a future that I wish for Lancaster City is that we learn how to deal with all our stormwater runoff. We just can't have enough absorption. And I know that has nothing to do with the facade of the garage, but hey, I just throw that out there anyways. I've seen your tubular designs, and I've had all last year to think about it. And I was thinking, wow, what if they were, I don't know, like the color of the bean in Chicago? They reflected everything around them in the square. And that image stayed with me all year. So it's just a comment, not really a question, just a vision. And thank you for listening.
Thank
Thank
you.
Okay, we still have about a minute before we have to move on to the next question. Are there other comments from the attendees?
Yep, we have another comment from Mary. Mary, I unmuted you.
I would like to add to what Maura Jean just said, that I feel the Lancaster City of the future will integrate the environmental practices and conservation that is going on in the surrounding countryside. And that sense of greenery that she talked about is so vital, because it speaks to me of life and vibrancy, which is what this city represents. So thank you for this wonderful opportunity.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
Okay. I think we can move on to, yes, there we go. So the second question, how can Ewell Plaza as a public space contribute to the community? So again, we're going to have about 5 minutes for some responses. Please raise your hand if you'd like to answer that question.
Maura Jean, I unmuted you.
You know, I always have something to say.
Good.
Anyways, yeah, I think that R&R Design has already kind of said some of the things that I was thinking, that if it was a public space for, you know, a story slam or some kind of performance art or, you know, temporary public art, yeah, I think that that's wonderful to have an area that's somewhat of a blank canvas, or just some kind of a space that would, I love your thoughts about interacting and bringing the public together. I think that's conducive to what you're thinking, and
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's important to think of the opportunity of the public square as a kind of space for, you know,
For expression, for
for
free
public
expression.
for free expression, you know, and I agree with you both. I mean, this is something that we should all share with the landscape architects, and I'm sure, you know, landscape architects usually love landscapes, or they should. So the more trees we have, the better, I think. You know, it is really remarkable the amount of green that the city has. You know, you know, at every edge of the central of the historical city, at every edge, you have a sort of park or the cemetery that really kind of embrace the city with a ring of sorts, or a necklace of green that runs through the city in the form of trees. So it's very, very present, the green. And this, in fact, Ewell Plaza, if you think of downtown, really has the opportunity to become a kind of a green spot within the center of the city that perhaps at this point doesn't really exist. What you have is tree-lined streets for the most part, and the parks occur, I mean, the biggest ones, you know, the cemetery and some of the parks at the edges, but and then you have tree-lined streets, but a space at the very center, this is probably going to be among the first. So there's an incredible opportunity in that regard, I think,
For green.
for green. And the more, the better. I agree with you. I think the space, for us, the space is more important than our project in a way. You know, our project ought to be, you know, a kind of call of, we would like to see it as a call of attention also to the library itself. You know, for us is the fact that we have a library there, the fact that we would like our project in a way
To invite people to come to the library.
you know, to kind of hide a little bit the fact that we have a parking garage there, you know, to help highlight the presence of the public library in a way, which is such an event. You see, I think it's very seldom. Sometimes you have a library built somewhere. Sometimes you have a plaza built somewhere, you know. And this morning we went through a number of parks that were recently refurbished here in town, and they're great. But very, very seldom, if ever, you have the encounter of a public space with a public building, such as the library in this case, and Ewell Plaza. So the encounter of these two events, Plaza, Public Square, and Public Building, is very, very unique. And it already sets up the place as a place of encounters. And especially for kids, I think it should be very important to call attention upon the library, the presence of the library in that space.
Yes,
I
and the
think-
celebration of the
Yeah.
library.
Okay, so we have, I think, Moira, do you still have a question, or did you, your hand is still raised? If you're good, would you, there you go, thanks. I think if we don't have additional responses to that, we're ready to move on to the next question. What historical events in Lancaster are most meaningful to you? Again, about 5 minutes, and raise your hand or add to the chat. Okay. We'll give it another 30 seconds to give someone a chance to think of their response if they'd like to add one. All right, I think if there isn't a response to that, we can, there you go. All right.
Agreed.
Okay, let's, is there one more question, or are we ready to, I can't remember if we have 3 or 4.
We don't have any questions, but
Okay.
Milty's graduation, 1996. I was born that year. Ooh.
Okay, I think we can move on to the next slide. What is a word or phrase that represents local hero and international athlete Barney Ewell? So again, for the participants, if the attendees, if something, please let us know what you think about that.
And again, we had a lot of answers about this, so inspirational, and we still have to finish reading it, but there were a lot of ideas about how to represent Barney Ewell. So thank you for those answers.
Mara Jean.
Yep. Yeah, I think I would echo Moira Jean's chat there, and then we can. Oh, there you go. There's some great responses to that last question. For Roberto and Rosario, if you're not familiar with this, this block of Lancaster is so the park across the street is where we host multiple celebrations. A New Year's Eve celebration, our 4th of July celebration, Independence Day celebration, and that's always been a little bit lopsided with the current park, Binns Park across the street. I think one of the most exciting opportunities is to balance that out with this great new public plaza on the other side, and give our community even more space to have real community celebrations.
Beautiful.
Some great responses in the chat about words that people think of with Barney Ewell. There you go. That's great. Does anybody, if anybody wants to elaborate or emphasize their chat comments, we have a few minutes to hear from you in the presentation. Otherwise, we can move on to the next slide. I'll give that about 15 seconds. Oh, I see Moira has something to add.
I do, if I can. I just want to say that, I was thinking of the origins of the Festival of Cultures. And then, like you said, we have all these other activities and race against racism. And I think there's a Latin festival and a gay pride festival. And I think that Lancastrians and even folks in the county look at that block, which you know, they mourned the loss of the historic buildings, but now they look at it with joy and eyes of, oh, there might be something fun happening, and music and entertainment. And it definitely is the melting pot square of our county, in my opinion. So that's about it.
Nice.
Okay, I think there you go. We're on to our next slide, our I think our last or nearly last slide. Well, yeah. So I guess I'll just say here, I really appreciate everyone's participation today, and make sure I'm doing my duties here. So there is another version of these listening sessions on Monday evening. Anybody who participated today is of course welcome to join us again. If you appreciated this and know of others who you think might welcome the opportunity, please spread the word. You know, we've been doing our best to communicate about this on social media. It was covered in the newspapers, but I think, you know, the more participation we get in this process, the better. So if you found this to be valuable and think that there might be people that you know who would enjoy this and welcome the opportunity to share and participate on Monday night, please pass this along to them. We would be grateful for that. There is an online survey on Engage Lancaster, which is Lancaster City's community engagement platform. That's going to be available for people to participate until May 28th. And you can find that at Ewell Plaza. There's more information about the project at ewellplaza.com. But we're really just grateful for everybody's comments and feedback and input today. Thank you so much. And yeah.
Thank
There you go.
you.
Thank you,
for
guys.
your time and
Sorry that
comments.
I always speak too much.
Well, I think it was great. I think I will say I think it was great for so many people to hear you talk. I mean, I think that's one of the hardest things about where we've been for the last year is the challenges with connecting and really experiencing people in a forum like this. So even though this is less than ideal, it was a great glimpse and an opportunity to really hear more directly from you, which I think is one of the things that Lancaster has been missing up to this point. So thank you so much for being here.
And I always have to apologize because I tend to speak too much, but the one that does all the work really is Rosario. So she's the one that deserves all the credit, not me, okay?
But
And some people think that
also-
it's me who does all the work. And in fact, that's not true. That's her, okay? So all the creative part goes for her, okay?
Don't believe him. But also, thank you for inviting us to Lancaster. We are enjoying our stay greatly. So thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you guys.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Thanks, everyone. I think that's the end of our presentation. So the attendees, thanks for joining us today, and you're welcome to move on and enjoy your beautiful weekend.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.